Miami. Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Podcast on this beautiful Thursday, March 23rd. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, we have Andrew Claudio of Knicks Film School. My friend, welcome to the program. What a great day for you to come on, huh?
Yeah, I set myself up for this, didn't I? I should have known that the first time I come on and I agreed to do it after a Knicks Heat game, it would be after the first time the Heat beat the Knicks this season. But happy to be here, my friend.
We scheduled it before the game, so we had no idea. This could have been a victory lap for Andrew, who does a great job at Knicks Film School. Make sure to check out everything that he has going over there. But Miami escapes. I don't want to say escape. Miami won the game.
Yeah, they did.
I think it was pretty clear at one point in the fourth quarter that they had kind of taken control of that game and they were going to win. It felt that way. They were playing well. I thought New York played well. We have a lot to get into. If you guys don't know the history, I've gone on Andrew's pod, and the last time I went on, I called the Knicks season cute. I said Jalen Brunson's having a cute season.
Yes.
Miami loses practically at the buzzer to Julius Randle and his incredible shot making. And Knicks fans, Knicks Twitter went at me, man. Knicks Twitter went at me. I came out on the other side barely. We have this matchup, and now it's my turn. Although I was telling Andrew off air, man, I have so much shit to talk, and I was at the game last night with Christian Hernandez, our statistician here at Heat Beat. We talked so much shit to Knicks fans. Oh, when they were leaving early, we were waving all those Randall jerseys, all those Brunson jerseys, all those Carmelo Anthony jerseys. We were waving goodbye as Pepas filled the arena. We were screaming, yelling, laughing. It was great. But listen, that was a game that I thought was important. I think if you're a Heat fan, and Andrew and I were talking about a little bit about this before we got on. If you're a Heat fan, you know, this season has been so up and down, and you don't know what the fuck to think of this team. Now this team can score a ton of points. I know the Knicks don't have the best defense, but, Miami's been scoring points. They're playing better. Andrew, you look at Miami how? Because Heat fans here, it's hard for them to get a grasp on who they are. And I think even other people nationally don't really know how to. So how do you, now that you've seen them kind of recently, and a lot, really, they've played 3 times in a pretty condensed period. What do you make of them?
So I'll add, not necessarily bona fides, but the Heat are also a team I check in a lot on League Pass when I'm up late editing or just working on some stuff, or just want to check out what's going on around the league. I've checked in a significant amount, and it's funny. I was saying on one of our post game shows when we were looking ahead at the schedule and saw both of these matchups, I'm so ready to be afraid of the Miami Heat, and it's just you do respect Jimmy, you do respect Spoelstra. This team, obviously, I don't have to tell you how far that run went last season, how close it was to an NBA, at least the Eastern Conference title. So I'm ready to respect them, and then it's a road loss. It's like losing to the Bulls on Saturday, taking all 4 quarters to beat a tanking Detroit team. And it's like, okay, like every time I'm ready to commit to being like, all right, we should fear the Miami Heat, a step back is taken. I think they're a really good home team. I think Jimmy Butler, in a perfect world that didn't care about wins and losses, would be in the MVP conversation. He's locked in at second team All NBA as far as I'm concerned. And if they're going to keep shooting like this, they actually will put a scare into whoever the 3 seed is or whomever they play in the first round. So I have a respect for them as a team that will be a force to be reckoned with. I don't know how irrational Heat fans are after beating the Knicks last night. So if there's like, here's 5 seed, here we come, finals run back on, like I have no idea where if that's coming a certain direction. I do respect Jimmy and I do respect Spo though. So as those, you have a great best player and a great coach. That at least is a recipe that I can understand being excited about.
So you left out Bam.
I did leave out Bam.
You did leave out Bam, and that I know is by design, which is I think kind of systematic of the national perception of them. Because if you ask Heat fans who is their best player been all season, I think 8 out of 10 are saying Bam Adebayo, including
Really?
myself. Bam has been the best player that they've had this season. Now, Jimmy is the best player, but for 82, with Bam's availability, with what he does on defense, with his truly leaps on offense, he's been their best player. Last night, for him, a bad offensive game. And what did he have? Like 17 and 8 or something, which for him, that's a subpar game. And, did a great job on Randall. Like, really made a guy who had 57 points, what was it, less than 24 hours before, 48 hours before?
Yeah, Monday night.
Night, have 15 on, shooting, right? He had 7 of 16 shooting. Really took him out of the game. And that's kind of what he adds, even if he didn't have the most prolific offensive game. But that's interesting that you left him out.
So, I mean, it's obviously I would think the second best player from my perspective. I think it's funny you mentioned the availability as to why you would have that be the reason you'd have him over Jimmy.
It's one of the reasons. It's not the reason, but it is one of the reasons.
I just in my opinion, take one of them off the Heat, and what are they this season? Now I guess you could argue if you take Jimmy off, you've had to deal with Jimmy being off the Heat with his availability this season and how much time he's missed. I guess on a lower scale, the Randall Brunson stuff, like you might look and be like, oh, well, Julius Randle's been the best player on the Knicks, which might, by the statistics and the impact metrics,
I would say probably Brunson.
Brunson's been their most important, especially offensively. The way that he's taken the slack off of Randle, that he doesn't have to do everything. If you watch the playoff series 2 years ago when the Knicks played the Hawks, it actually was pretty easy to stop the Knicks. Just double Randle, confuse him a little bit. Their entire offense ran through him. And the only game they won in that series, Derrick Rose had almost 30 points. And then after his engine was suddenly on E, the Knicks didn't have any pivot to turn to. And with Randle and Brunson being together, Randle can operate with a little less gravity his way. And it's made him into an All-NBA player this year. It's made him into obviously an all-star this season. But Brunson, across the board, defensive limitations aside, is clearly the most important player. So I wonder if that's somewhat similar to what the Miami dynamic is. Look, I also just respect what playoff Jimmy becomes. So maybe
of course,
I'm a little more,
and
more
that's why
biased.
I said he's their best player. Like I don't think I don't think anybody here, in the market is blind to the fact that he is their best player. But through the regular season, I think, and Jimmy takes nights off, man. There'll be a night, there'll be a Tuesday in Sacramento that Jimmy's just not there, and that happens often. And there was a video that was circulating today. And even prior to All-Star break, Jimmy was having a great season. There was his impact metrics are always on point, but you could tell that he's not on, or as he likes to say, locked in. And he had a video, I think, from Argentina where he was just hooping, and he's like, somebody asked him, when are you going to start trying? He's like, after All-Star break, I play real basketball. And we've seen that. I mean, his, a legitimate late, when I say MVP push, I mean, can he get on the 4th or 5th spot of a ballot? Kind of play, and that's the kind of play he's had, man. Not to be under a delusion or anything, but I just think that the level that he's played since All-Star break is it's there, dude. It's
I see the numbers. Believe me, I don't. That 5th spot is open on the MVP ballot right now.
I think it's his to. I think if he keeps this up, it's his to have.
They get the 5 seed and he keeps this up. That's the case. Push, not save the Heat season, because I don't know.
No, I'd say Andrew, if they're a 7 seed coming off of, remember, let's keep it to perspective. What happened this summer? They didn't do a single thing this summer. They just lost. They didn't add. They lost. They drafted Nikola Jovic, who hasn't played really, and they lost PJ, and guys got older and more hurt. So they were looking at the 7 seed, looking up from hell, and that is he is saving their season.
Listen, respect to Jimmy Butler. I know he talked a lot of junk last night. It's funny. The moment he did that, that's when the Knicks went on a run. So I appreciate.
How did you? So Jimmy had a couple moments in that game. Every time he hit a shot, just Dwayne Wade was in the building. Every time Jimmy hit a shot, a big shot, he turned to Dwayne and pointed and yapped, which is peak.
We had no idea who he was yelling at.
It was Dwayne Wade.
So we were obviously watching the MSG broadcast. They never said,
because
we were watching it on playback. They never said who he's yelling at. There's one.
And Breen sits on the other side.
Right. So he might have seen that it's Dwayne Wade, but like it was like he's gesturing to someone on the Heat bench, or he's talking to somebody. So I just thought, like, a way to pump himself up, he had to do that. And so I understood it. The Knicks were in the game, so like I also went into the night assuming that Jimmy Butler was going to go off, so it wasn't necessarily surprising what he was doing last night. It was after the game that I realized that are we allowed to curse on here or no?
Of course, we let that shit fly.
The shit that he was talking was more to Dwayne Wade as good. It was in good spirits, I guess, if you want to call it that. And you know, the Knicks scored 120 points. I wasn't like concerned about like. I was way more concerned about the defensive side of the ball, but like it's the Gabe Vincent performance, it's the Tyler Hero performance, it's the Max Strus hitting every open three that I was more concerned about than Jimmy Butler doing what I expected Jimmy Butler to do.
Yeah, and I mean, he just gets him in gear. I mean, he had that moment where I think he scored on quickly, and he just does the too small as he's running back on defense. And then, of course, the Randall. You know, I think Jimmy's going to the line, makes a little crying face at Randall, and just goes, okay. Which is top five moment this season, maybe number one moment this season. I'm not gonna lie, that shit, you do that to a Knick player, you're a lifer. You're a fucking lifer.
I will just counterpoint. As in the words of Michael Jordan from The Last Dance, it's really easy to talk shit when you're up. And when it's 0-0, let's see if you bring that smoke. And the last time,
he does, though. He does.
The last time Jimmy Butler had a chance to stop Julius Randle, he hit a shot to win the game in what became MSG South a couple weeks ago.
In the words of Dame Lillard, that's a bad shot. I'm sorry, Paul George. That's a bad shot.
That's
a bad shot.
I'm playing the result here, my friend. It's a shot that went in and sent us into a stir. So,
yeah, man, that and you know. There were so many fucking Knicks fans there yesterday. It was insane. Christian and I were like, where do these people, where do y'all come from? I mean, the last time I was at a Heat-Knicks game was the Linsanity game. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of New Yorkers there, but it wasn't as much as this. This was a lot. I would say at least 30% was Knicks fans, which is like, I guess it makes sense if you live here, especially, you know, in these months, right? Where it's still, I know that the weather in New York has been horrible. I just had a friend here visiting from New York, and he was complaining about it a ton. And it's been nice here, but yeah, man, it's so many Knicks fans.
There are many a New Yorker I grew up with, family even, that migrated south. So I can't really push back on that. Yes, we like living in a state with nice weather and no state income tax. I don't know what to tell you as far as
it's just
Knicks fans there.
Observation.
You
so
know?
Let's talk about kind of the flow of the game a little bit, because you know, Andrew, one of the things I thought has been interesting about Miami is they're going Kevin Love at center in the minutes that Bam sits. That role was for Cody Zeller, who I believe it was it Detroit, or I don't remember, or Chicago. One of those games, he broke his face. It looked bad. There was blood everywhere. It was a bloody stretch for Miami. Kevin Love also looked like he came out of war. I forgot which game he got bloodied up on, but they've been having a lot of head injuries lately. But Cody Zeller's been out for a bit. Was it Orlando? I don't remember. One of these games Zeller got hurt, and Love has kind of been playing backup five, and it's been interesting because Miami's defense has taken a huge hit since really the deadline. They were one of the best teams in the league defensively. They were 5 in defense. They've slipped to 22nd in defense since All-Star break, and I believe they're 11th in offense, which is a total flip, where they were like 27th in offense and 5th in defense. When Kevin Love's on the court without Bam, in 65 minutes, the Heat are plus 14 net rating, a 140 offensive rating, and a 126 defensive rating. So that explains a lot. And I want to know how you felt those minutes were. Like, how did you feel about those Kevin Love minutes? Because I think they get in gear on offense. You saw a couple of times where Love is throwing these really nice outlet passes. There's that one outlet bounce pass as Jimmy and Caleb are leaking out. We know that New York isn't this. They're an offense team, you know, this year, which is weird under Thibs. But, you know, what did you make of those lineups? Because I thought it breathed a little bit of life into the game for them. They were down before that happened.
And so specifically the start of the fourth quarter minutes, when I believe that's when both Bam and Jimmy were sitting.
Yeah, and it was Kyle, Tyler.
So that was the point. We were watching the game again on playback, and while the Heat were seemingly making everything, and it looked like we were headed for a double-digit loss, those of us that watch the Heat consistently, or at least track them throughout the season, we know that you guys just only play 5-point games. So I had a feeling we were getting back
crazy, bro.
I had a feeling we were getting back.
It almost happened again yesterday.
It almost did. Believe me, I was ready for it. I also knew how good the Knicks' second unit was. That quickly, Obi Toppin, Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein, RJ lineup that they go to.
Really well.
They're able to get so much more creative with their offense. No disrespect to Mitchell Robinson, an elite offensive rebounder when he's heads in the game, but you can spread the floor a little bit more.
Insult.
Well, just like you could spread it's just a different type of center, you know. Like you could spread the floor a little bit more. He's not a 3-point shooter.
I think that helps them a ton.
So as a result, it's so much less about like can Hartenstein hit a 3. It's more about opening up the rim and these drives that the Knicks like to do with Quickly, with RJ, with Josh Hart. You also allow Obi Toppin to become more of a weapon with less somebody not in the dunker spot. So while I will say that I was like, you have to win these minutes when Bam or Jimmy are not there. For me, it was way less about like the Kevin Love minutes that you had to win. It was who wasn't on the floor and focusing. Like the Knicks ended up taking a lead in that fourth quarter because of that second unit. I was more confident just that I think you ran up against one of the better second units in the NBA with that fourth quarter. I don't know if that makes you feel any better. About Kevin Love and center minutes.
So like we don't like those non-Jimmy Bam minutes, and we don't understand. I feel a little bit better about them since Kyle's come back because Lowry again had a really good game yesterday.
Yeah, how you feeling?
I feel good. I mean,
vindicated
a little bit.
Okay.
He's not gonna give you the big box score stuffing that he used to do, right? Like he would regularly put up like 19, 9, and 7, right? That was like a normal Kyle night. Now it's more like 14, 5, and 3, but. There was a play yesterday when I was sitting with Christian, and I believe it's Mitchell gets an offensive rebound, or Brunson. Some Nick gets an offensive rebound, and Kyle, it wasn't Kyle's offensive rebound to give up, but he had the awareness, was able to kind of put some pressure on the ball, get like a mild strip, but not really, and then gave Jimmy and Caleb enough time to swarm, and they got a turnover out of it. And then they scored on the other end. It was the tippy toe shot that Caleb hit off the outlet and leak out. And that's not going to show up in the box score as a steal. That's not going to show up as anything. But that's a 4-point swing. You know what I mean? Especially not fouling and everything. And those are the kinds of plays that he makes. You see how he kind of runs their offense when they leave the bench. I think the minutes between him and Tyler have been really, really good. Specifically, which wasn't early in the year. They were kind of struggling. Last year, they were really good together. This year, they had struggled. So I'm just glad that he's able to give them something on offense. He does play really good defense. I thought he struggled with RJ yesterday, and I thought a part of that was kind of their help. And in that quarter you're talking about, I remember there being a play where their back line was Hero and it was another small guy. And then Hero's the guy coming to help. And I was like, yeah, I mean, they're just going to score. I mean, if Quickly gets in the paint, like that helps not doing anything, right? Because their low men were guards. So that's what more worried me. And then especially I thought the Knicks did a great job of trying to get Kevin Love into actions, not as the initial guy, but as the secondary guy. Like they ran, whatever down screen, it's Kevin. So he has to be the one to kind of close out on the shooter off the kick out, and they know he's a little slower. And I thought that they generated a ton of open looks. So I was a little bit worried about that, but I thought they scored enough where that didn't matter, even without Jimmy.
That's the thing. Like the Knicks defense right now, I think is much more of a concern. But like you said, they run these pistol sets for RJ.
Yeah.
That
nice early offense.
They just get him downhill a lot easier. This is all another way to kind of help when you spread the floor a little bit. It's why RJ Barrett's such a tough player to evaluate, because you see these moments like 26
I think you saw it last night, yeah.
Well, like 26 points on 13 shots, and then you get the portion of the Knicks fan base that's like, why didn't he take 25 shots? Why didn't you?
I know he puts up stinkers regularly, and last night you're like, oh, wow, he looks good, and then
you see it, but you see like he's more efficient in the touches he has. So it's the rock and a hard place of like, should this have been a game that you featured RJ more? Should this have been a game that you went away? Like, did Randall and Brunson led the team in shot attempts, both with 16, but like you spread the wealth a little more. I actually noticed a lot more ball movement in the first two quarters as opposed to the third quarter when it got a little more isolation heavy. I thought the Heat did a smart thing of that. It was an adjustment from the last game where it was just Jimmy's on Brunson, Bam's on Randall, and our two best defenders are going to guard your two best players. And it's why Quentin Grimes had a good game. It's why RJ Barrett had a good game. And you had other options that were out there scoring. The RJ thing, though, like you said it, like every person that was switched onto him, and he's had like a 30-point game earlier this season against the Heat. He had 46 at the Garden last season. So it's funny how he ends up having these good games against the Heat. I would like it if they would win more of those good RJ games against the Heat, but I guess I'll settle for the one at the Garden earlier this year. I appreciated that the RJ was able, because again, when you have
he did that against three guards, which I think is important. Like he roasted the smaller lineups.
Right, which is that's the formula, especially when you're going to put Jimmy on Brunson, which Brunson still being able to get 25 points last night was what he's been all season.
Caleb spent a ton of time on him too, and I thought Jalen did a really good job.
Mm-hmm. I thought we were talking before the pod though, like that first step that he has, like he was able to not handle Jimmy because like Jimmy made his life tough, but that's just what he's been all season, is taking tough shots, you know. Jimmy
like really focused. I thought he played too heavily into trying to get turnovers. I thought he gambled. It was mostly on Randall when he got switched on to Randall. I thought he was kind of fishing for turnovers, and he got burned, which kind of leaves kind of Tyler and Max kind of compromised, kind of rotating on the back line, which I haven't looked at their numbers, but I will later because I'm curious as to, because, you know, Cooper Moorhead had tweeted out something that, like, if you discount Miami's ability to create turnovers, like if you just count only like live possessions, you know, they're one of the worst defenses in the league, but the fact that they force so many turnovers makes them one of the best. And
which that's why that to me was like the big difference last night. A lot of focus was made on why the Knicks gave up 127 points. It's the second straight game that an opponent shot at least 57% from three. And like, you don't want that, but the Knicks also had 16 turnovers. This is one of the teams that turns the ball over the least in the league. It's a focal point, and they were a little bit more careless with the ball last night.
And I think Miami felt that, and I think Jimmy sensed that. I kind of wish he would rein that in a little bit, but you know, you can't argue with his results. I think at that point, kind of his judgment calls are good. I want to talk a little bit about Brunson because we talked pregame like about his pre-show about his first step. I left at the arena, and I hate to give, and I'm gonna slander the fuck out of you guys in a second, but okay. I hate to be left impressed by, you know, when he gets that first step, he's so good at deceleration, and seeing it live was cool because it was a play, I believe it was in the first or second quarter, that he has Caleb on him, and he goes at him with that first step, and he's not the most athletic guy in the world, and he's a smaller guy, but he's able to kind of get that first step and get Caleb on his hip. Decelerates so quickly. Caleb is an athletic freak. He recognizes this, and he knows she's going up for the shot. He's floating. I mean, the hang time that Caleb had was ridiculous. Floating for that contest. Jalen waits it out and kind of gets this little push shot going. And I think that's just like kind of his game against these longer defenders, because I thought Miami was like, okay, well, we don't have the point of attack guys to really deal with this, so we're just going to throw length on him. Right, which is, you know, why Lowry ends up guarding Barrett, right, and even Gabe spent time on Barrett. Like they just give up size on Barrett, and they're like, let's try to control the guards. And I just thought that that was where I left impressed. So Jalen kind of recognized that with the first step, was able to kind of get that length off of him. As Smith and Smolnik in chat says, Andrew looks like if G grew up in a white neighborhood.
That's funny. It's my hair. I should have done something different with my hair. Okay. Regardless, shout out to mi padre.
Shout out to chat.
Yes. Estoy puertorriqueño.
There you go. You know, Andrew's Puerto Rican, you know.
Exactly. So. I just also have, you know, the banker hair going on right now.
Wall Street hair.
Exactly.
Wall Street Andrew.
Wall Street is literally like 20 minutes that way. So
Wall Street Andrew.
Wall Street Andrew. Interesting. Yeah, Jalen Brunson has struggled with length all season too. Like when you get into these matchups against like the Raptors were like a nightmare matchup for him.
The Raptors are hell for everybody, bro.
They're hell for everybody, yeah. But like
even
for a smaller guard, like
he
struggled with teams that can like you said, guard you with length, which is why I think you saw the good of Jalen Brunson last night, being able to kind of adjust and still hit tough shots and get his points. And then you saw the 5 turnovers, which were some, like, I think 4 of them were live ball turnovers. And it's this thing he's done for the past couple of games since he came back from injury, where there's some grenades he'll throw where it's like, I'm working my way to try and get into the paint, but because I've now like gotten nowhere, here, Randall, here's 2 seconds, go do something. Hey, quickly, here's 2 seconds, go do something. We have like very few bad things to say about Jalen Brunson this season, though. The only reason the Knicks are in the position they're in is because of him. So yeah, I'm glad that you felt impressed by his cute season and his cute performance last night. You know,
listen, he's had a cute season.
It's adorable. Yeah,
it's adorable. He's had an adorable little season.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's handsome.
Gorgeous. Listen, it's gorgeous, and a nice L going back to New York with Miami. Miami will play them again. Listen, I hate to admit, but they had a good, New York, I thought was good. I watched them, and I came out of that game thinking, and Alf said this on Hangover Time last night, and we all made gag reflexes post game. Alf was doing throw up. He was pantomiming, vomiting, having to say, I hate to admit this, but the Knicks are a good team. And listen, they play well. Now, the thing is, do you really want the 5 seed and play Milwaukee in the second round? That's what I was thinking about today. I'm like, do I really want the 5 seed?
So that's maybe a Miami Heat question, because you guys have higher aspirations. You need to understand the parade that will be thrown if the Knicks win a playoff series. We've won one this century, and the expectations around this team going into this year, it was like, get home court in a playoff game, and it will be a step in a play-in game, and it will be a step forward. And what this season has been, with the multiple winning streaks, with they're 10 games over 500, and they've played poorly over their last week and a half, So, yes, we have to get through Milwaukee anyway if you're going to end up playing them. It's not going to matter to me if they get eliminated by Milwaukee in the second round or the conference finals, especially since, and I don't know how you feel about this, I think the Milwaukee Bucks are my pick to win the title. So if you lose to the eventual champions, whenever it is, I'll live with it. I'll talk myself into this still being a successful season. If it's a second round and you got by Donovan Mitchell with all of the storylines and the baggage that's going to surround that series, the rest is house money, whatever happens in that second round.
That's funny. So if Miami loses in the first round,
it's Armageddon.
It's a disaster.
I know.
They need to win a series. And I think if you win a series I think Cleveland's a winnable series, and I think Philadelphia's a winnable series. Now, I know that Philly's playing a lot better, and I know that the addition, and I'll talk about this at length on a pod separately, but I think the addition of Kevin Love kind of complicates the way that Miami plays Philadelphia, and we could talk about that more in depth later, kind of their more swarm and switch mentality against them, but I like that matchup, but I think winning against Cleveland and then getting Milwaukee is just a recipe to get embarrassed in the second round. It's just tough for me to imagine Miami being able to keep up with the Bucks. I actually don't even hate their matchup against Boston. I think Miami's played Boston tough, and that may be crazy, and I wouldn't pick Boston to win, but I sure think they have a better chance than they do against Milwaukee.
I have been working on a take lately at Knicks Film School.
What do you got?
Are we sure Boston wasn't always there for the taking? Even
I'm there. I mean, I don't.
That first round series against Brooklyn was Brooklyn had a fourth quarter lead in 3 of the 4 games. That was a sweep. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like a normal sweep where they dominated Brooklyn and swept them off the court. They were down 3-2 and had multiple home losses against Milwaukee, and it took Jason Tatum's best career performance and 25 3-pointers in Game 7 to win. I don't need to tell you how close the Miami Heat series was.
And remember that Lowry was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Max
Hero was hurt.
Hero missed the last 2 games. Max Strus had a lower body
Jimmy
injury.
was on one leg.
Jimmy missed a game.
Yeah.
They won that game, but Jimmy missed the game. And PJ Tucker also they all had lower body injuries. So
all of the things that went right for the Celtics last year, and this season they lose their coach. Marcus Smart's not playing the way that he did last season. They've barely seen that starting 5 play together this year. Now you add this Jaylen Brown storyline. I got to be honest, I have to look at like eventually who the matchup is, but I'm eventually probably if it's Miami, Boston in the first round, I'm probably going to take Miami as
Andrew,
an upset.
I'm in a Celtic group chat. They really don't want that. They are like,
of course not.
I'd probably pick us, but I just never want to see Jimmy Butler ever again. Ryan Spravero in chat says Boston's 14-11 in their last 25.
Yeah. Like net rating, it's even worse. They got off to that crazy good start to the season where it looked like they were headed for 65.
It was the reverse of last
wins.
season, Andrew.
Yeah.
If you remember last year, Boston was like the 7th seed for a long time, and then they came surging. This has been the opposite.
Do you know what the inciting incident was that turned their season around?
Last season?
Yes.
No, I don't. What was
We
it?
take it personally in Knicks land.
Oh,
so
did the Knicks win?
the RJ Barrett buzzer beater. It's actually statistically
That'll
went
do
like,
it. Andrew,
they went
that'll
like
do it.
32-11 after that stretch. And
Andrew,
was
that'll
like,
do it. That'll do it.
Losing to RJ Barrett at the buzzer? Yes.
It would do it for me.
Will. It was a 24-point lead that they blew at Madison Square Garden, and then RJ Barrett hits a buzzer beater off glass, and from that point, you can literally point to it. Ironically, it was on January 6th of 2022, and then from that point on, the Celtics went on a run. So
the jokes write themselves.
They really do.
The jokes truly.
January 6th was a turnaround for the people of Boston.
For the people of Boston.
Yes,
the Boston Celtics. Last year, I like Miami in that series against Boston. I thought I liked them pregame. I was a little disappointed that they got injured, but D Sizzle in chat says the only teams I don't want to see in the first round are Boston or Milwaukee. Somehow Miami gets filled in the first round. That's an easy dub. I wouldn't say easy. I know the Magic right now are up on. They're up on New York.
Tied at 22.
Tied at 22. Okay, that message came in late. Yeah, the actual game for Miami to keep an eye out for today is
Brooklyn.
Is the Brooklyn game against Cleveland today, because Miami. I do think that if you're Miami, you just don't want to be in the play-in. I don't think New York is. Do you guys have the tiebreaker over Brooklyn?
Yeah.
I believe so. Don't you?
Yes, because it's division record, and that's the craziest part about this season is the Knicks went into the year with this gauntlet division with Toronto, Brooklyn before the KD Kyrie trade,
and Boston,
Philadelphia, and Boston, and it was like, well, this is where you count on a play-in berth at best because you're going to be in last place in your division, and like beat the Celtics 3 out of 4 times. They beat Philly twice. I think they went 2-2 against both. Brooklyn and Toronto. So as a result, they're able to get the tiebreaker there with Brooklyn. I'm resigned to the belief that I think Brooklyn's going to end up in the play-in.
I think so too.
I know Miami has some road games, and they're just a much different team on the road this season. But
they only have 2 home games left, I believe. I believe it's their season ender.
So I think 5 of their final 8 are on the road. That was the comfort I was giving to Knicks fans last night that are now terrified that Miami's going to pass them and that the Knicks are going to fall to 7th. And then we're going to have to play Trae Young again. And then some bullshit's going to happen and Trae Young's going to get 40 free throws and they're going to end up losing at the Garden in the 7-8 matchup. Then they're going to lose to Chicago or Toronto because they barely played well against Toronto. It'll be back-to-back home losses. The doomsday scenario that Knicks fans and their PTSD created last night. I told them, there are 5 teams in the NBA with a positive net rating on the road this year. The Knicks are one of them. They will rebound. And then I pointed out the negative 2.6 net rating that the Heat have, and was like, that is your path. Just be comforted by the fact that the Heat are a different team on the road. Brooklyn's schedule, I think, will dictate that they're headed for the 7 seed.
Miami's schedule is weird, and I'll say one thing about what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's a different team than they were pre-All-Star break because they've switched to they're scoring again and they're shooting again. So I don't know. That's why we started this show to bring this full circle. I don't know what to make of them. I just genuinely don't, and that's why I like asking people that are not so close to the team. Because even
who they play last week? It was Utah that they put up like 140 points on.
No, they did. So it was Utah.
It was Memphis.
It was Memphis. So points. Utah 119, Grizzlies 138, 112 against Detroit, and 127 last night. Their only loss, they were 99. So against Chicago.
The Chicago game. I was expecting them to come into this Knicks game like on a 5-game winning streak, and then
so were we.
It's why Pat Bev went on a 14-0 run against the Heat.
And actuality, that Orlando overtime. So I mean, they could have gone in on a 7-game win streak because that Orlando lost in overtime after Jimmy kind of Hercules them back. They kind of put up that stinker in overtime. They had beat Cleveland the game before. And then obviously that Chicago game. So Miami going forward to close out their season at Brooklyn. If I'm correct. Yeah, no. At home against Brooklyn. That's one of their last 2 home games. At Toronto, at New York, at home against Dallas, at Detroit, at Philadelphia, at Washington, and then at home against Orlando. So not that many home games left. A weird schedule. Obviously, Washington, Orlando, Detroit are the gimmies. You need to, and Orlando's not a gimme. That I fucking hate that team. I hate playing that team. They're just annoying.
25 and 23 since December 7th.
That Philly game might be interesting. I think Philly's gonna have something to play for till the last day with how close the 1 through 3 is. And Dallas, obviously the West is a fucking clusterfuck right now. And that New York game's huge. I think that New York game's gonna say a lot. I think if Miami can kind of beat Brooklyn, beat Toronto, go into that New York game on a little winning streak, I think if New York doesn't play perfectly, that game might mean a ton. And obviously, if they even tie, I don't know what's the next breaker.
Next tiebreaker, Miami would have it because it's division. If then you guys will have won your division.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you win that game, you have the tiebreaker with the Knicks, and the entire city of New York will be in a panic that we're dropping to the 6th seed and all the good vibes are officially gone.
But you may want the 6th seed. If it's Boston,
I want Donovan Mitchell.
If it's Boston, what if it's Boston?
Listen, I'll get up for Boston or Cleveland.
Because
you guys have Donovan Mitchell matchup.
You guys have played Boston really tight in the regular season.
Yeah, undefeated in Boston this year.
Yeah. So
look, I'm the one that just gave you the take.
I know. That's why I had to ask.
It's the symbolism of you had this run, you won 9 straight games to get to the 5 seed, and it was the good juju of the Knicks are 6th. Maybe they're able to, or the Knicks are 5th. I mean, you're able to see the progress of being the 11th seed last year and taking this giant step forward. Quickly's probably going to win 6th man of the year. You add in,
is he?
I think he is. Listening to Zach Lowe talk with Chris Herring this year,
him and Norman.
It's him
Powell?
and Malcolm Brogdon. It's him
really?
and Malcolm Brogdon. Yeah, and just looking at, I don't want to fully go impact metrics here because they all kind of draw from the same metrics and whatnot. I just go by lineup data. The Knicks have been a significantly better team when he's on the floor.
Yeah.
It's why last night, perfect example. When did the Knicks make their 2 runs to get back in the game? Beginning of the second quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. It's when they
nature has healed the bench unit.
Right.
The bench unit buoys New York.
That's been the formula all season. When RJ's had those stinkers, all of us have just been can we get Emmanuel quickly back in the game, please? The Knicks are playing without Brunson right now. And as I'm watching, they're down 7. So that could lead to some agita later, but
and this has big implications for Miami because what's the difference in the standings right now?
Game and a half.
It's a game and a half.
It's 2 games. Knicks lose. It's a game and a half.
So it's a game and a half with 1 left against New York
against each other,
and
that will decide the tiebreaker.
And then the tiebreaker, since Miami has the tiebreaker, that half game is essentially it for them. So a lot to play for down the stretch here. Andrew, before we get out of here. I did want to ask you, and by the way, before I say that, let me give a couple shout outs in chat. People are asking, who was it? This was is Oladipo hurt or is he out of the lineup? Much to the glee of Alphonse Sidney, host of our post-game show Hangover Time, Oladipo is out of the lineup.
Out of the lineup.
Some of us have been sick of Depot, man. His shot selection is kind of up his ass, and I just think he needs the ball too much, and I just think he can't have the ball. And I think with Lowry kind of coming back and playing better. Obviously Depot's such a non-shooter, and I think Kyle's just a better pull-up guy anyway. That it just makes more sense to have Kyle on the ball, and Kyle's been good defensively too. So, been a weird thing. Highsmith got minutes last night over Oladipo, which I like too. I just think that they're a wing short. Partly what we were talking about earlier about how their kind of help on the back line can get a little small, and I think that's kind of a problem with their defense now as well. Highsmith is a guy that is big, is not the tallest guy, but plays big and is strong. There was another thing I saw here that I wanted to say that I don't know if I'd rather have Strus or Oladipo. I think you kind of need Strus because you need him to have games like last night to win. He's more likely to be a good shooter than Oladipo, and they just need anybody to step up as a shooter. And, as Andrew saw, unfortunately for him last night, Gabe and Strus kind of regress to their mean as good shooters.
Yeah.
They need Max. We can talk shit about Max. We can get mad at Max and Gabe because they're really like they're the avatars for the regression of the role players. The ones not hampered by age and injury. They need them to play well, and they don't have anybody else. Those guys gotta play to a level that we've seen them play before. Yeah. So, Andrew, I want to ask you because I do, and with this we'll get out of here. I think that this is a new era of Heat-Knicks rivalry. These teams don't like each other. It's clear. And I think that's fucking awesome. Because even the big three teams, those Knicks teams, they didn't hate each other because Melo's boys with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if anything, I think that maybe the Indiana teams and New York teams, those Roy Hibbert Pacers and those Knicks teams didn't like each other way more than those Heat teams and Knicks teams didn't. I think these two teams genuinely don't like each other. You can see that there's a little bit of ire. I don't know where the fuck it came from. But Bam has very famously, when he was interviewed by, I forget her name. She's a New Yorker. God damn.
Is it Rebecca Harlow?
No. She has, I think she works for Bleacher Report.
Oh, Ashley.
Ashley. Yeah. And she asked Bam, who's the hardest guy for you to defend? And he gives a bunch of names. She's like, but not a Julius Randle. And Bam's just like, no. Who? Like, I don't know, man. These teams just don't fucking like each other. And I like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't that feel, it feels good.
My Knicks fandom began on an Allen Houston running jumper with 0.8 of a second left.
As Miami has broken.
Well, believe me, that poster is hanging in my childhood room about 40 miles that way with my parents. But you need some playoff matchups to fully solidify it. So if these two teams are the 4-5 next year, let's have some fun.
That'd be fucking awesome.
I mean, hell, if this is the a 5-6 in the conference finals, why not? The Knicks against
why not us?
Why not us? Look, I think the RJ Tyler Hero, because they're drafted the same year.
That's true. I didn't even think of that.
Was comps that direction. Jimmy and Randall have gotten into it, obviously, over a couple days. You have the Riley factor of it that still exists.
That's always going to be,
because it's always going to be there. And then you add in, like, Tibbs went up against, you mentioned this when you came on with us, going up against the Heat in a lot of those matchups when he was with the Bulls. So, I'm here for it.
I'm here for it.
The most our fan base, our specifically Knicks Film School, has been animated was on the post game after Randall hit that shot. And it's why, look, you mentioned Jimmy becoming an icon or a lifer because of that moment against the Knicks when he did the face at Randall. Well, Randall became an icon with that shot as well. So
there's hatred here, man. We gotta farm.
All is forgiven.
We gotta farm this hate, dude. Let's go.
I'm in.
Fuck these positive vibes. Hatred's back on the menu. It's the 90s, baby.
What is it? Hater first, analyst second.
Hater first, analyst second. Let's go. Yeah, absolutely.
We're
I don't hate you.
Taking over your building every away game that we're there. We're on our way to taking over your state with no state income tax. Yeah. Like, I'm all in. Listen,
you better pray that there's no Let's Go Heat chance at MSG.
Don't worry, there won't be.
You better pray. We'll see. They're everywhere. You certainly hear them in Brooklyn games.
Well, that's because there's no Nets fans. That's
fuck little brother.
That's something we can.
Yeah, we can all come together.
Brooklyn, there's like 87 of them. They're basically like J. Cole fans. There's like a very small sect of J. Cole fans. You go to their concert, they all think it's the time of their lives, but it's not that big a fan base as a result.
Listen.
And with the Nets, it's like that's why the KD Kyrie thing was so fascinating, where they went to a place where there's no built-in fan base or built-in excitement for the team whatsoever. And then, like, they'd go to Knicks games and be like, this is the team that we're afraid of. It's like, no, you're better, but you don't have anybody that's going to now become a Nets fan as a result,
I cannot wait to continue to hate this Knicks team. But I don't hate you, Andrew, and I love that you came on, and we'll always have a good time here. I do hate your listeners, though, and they hate me back. And listen, I will be their heel. I'll be their heel. I'll be their heel. Did they hate Zaslow?
No, he
was nice.
Yeah, he was
what
nice.
A fucking
He was
sellout.
nice.
Zazzle used to be on the radio.
He started off the way he started it off with the Knicks are good, and like the
But he
NBA's
can't do that. Zaz is
better when
like
the Knicks are good.
I don't
know?
like Zaz. I'm publicly beefing with
There's
Zaz on
public
Twitter.
beef with Zaz, though.
I'm beefing
Ooh.
with Zaz on Twitter, but Zaz used to be a guy that would come here on the radio in Miami and talk massive shit about the Knicks. So he used to lead that. I don't want to hear about his Zaz.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed in him. He was supposed to represent us.
Listen, he talked shit after the game, so he was able to.
He can't do after. I talked shit before.
I agree. I agree.
I put myself out there, man. I put myself out there for your listeners to, and I let them off easy because I was at the game and I had a great time drinking. They got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
They got lucky. I was vibing.
Speaking of getting lucky, I'm glad you enjoyed last night's win over the Knicks. And when you come to the Garden next Wednesday and you officially see what a team can do when they win the tiebreaker, that's New York
It's
Knicks
a fucking tiebreaker, bro. That's it right there. Everything on the line.
Enjoy this is all I'm going to say.
I love it.
Enjoy this.
Is that on national TV? The NBA better flex that.
I don't think so, but I agree. That's a flex game.
That's a
if I ever
fucking
saw
flex,
one,
bro. I mean,
know?
Heat Knicks mattering. You got to get that. You know what I mean? You have to.
Listen, I'm all in. I'm all in.
It's built in. Andrew, tell the people where they can find you, your incredible work. I don't know if they're going to be Heat fans listening to your stuff, but maybe they could tell a Knick fan relative if they want a Knick podcast.
Especially down in Florida, where I'm sure you have
There's
a Knick
so
fan
many
relative
of them.
that has
God
moved there.
Damn. So
You can find me and the entire Knicks Film School crew on Twitter at NickFilm SKOOL. Because we're cool like that. We're the cool kids in school.
You're young, hip.
Exactly. We're young and hip, or Knicks Film School was already taken.
Damn that
we're on
SEO.
Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook and all those platforms. We're big on our YouTube channel where we're about to hit 12,000 subs this season.
Look at that.
So if you wanna come and join us after we lose, and you can commiserate with us there or poke fun at us there, you
That's
can.
what chat's saying.
Or see what an exciting win is like after a Knicks game, as they're down 17 to the Magic. The big thing, check out the Knicks Film School podcast. We upload, like 2 to 3 uploads a day, especially on a game day. The pregame pod, post-game pods, as well as some off-day pods where we just kind of talk about the general state of the team. Thanks for having me, man. It's been great to make a new friend out of this, even if he is on enemy lines.
Listen, I'll hate you in public, but in private, I'll be like, yo, Andrew.
In private,
yeah. Yo, hope all's well with you and the fam, all that.
Yes.
Excited for what is it, next Thursday?
Next
Wednesday. Love it. ESPN, you know what to do. And remember to catch our shows. Remember, guys, a special weekend Hangover Time postgame show this Saturday against the Brooklyn Nets. That's a big one. And you know how we do on weekends. We always have fun. Come have a drink with us. Watch the game. If you're not at Ultra Weekend in Miami, Audrey, I don't know if you know what Ultra is, but the city gets shut down.
I'm aware.
I'm
aware.
I was invited and I said no. I have to ask my friend. I said no. This is too much. It's just too much. I'm getting too old for this. I'm over the hill. But join us on Saturday for Hangover Time. And I don't know if we'll have a pregame show. I think we do. We'll see. But join us then here on twitch.tv/Miami Heat Beat and on YouTube. And thank you to everybody in chat, all our subs and everybody. We'll see you then.
Thanks for having me, folks.